Mm, 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 mm.
Okay. Hi.
What's up, y'all?
Hello, internet.
Okay.
Welcome to our live stream.
We're Tomboi.
I think
Hope everyone can see us.
Welcome to
there's
our
like a
live
little
stream.
bit of a
We're Tomboi.
delay on the Facebook, so I'm just gonna have to pause that for a second. I think
Hope everyone can see us. Okay. Well, we are here. We're in the internet. We're here to talk to you about queer and trans advocacy for the Harvey Milk Festival, currently happening online due to the current COVID-19 situation. We hope everyone is staying safe and is able to take care of themselves, you know, mentally, physically. It's a really important time right now to advocate not only for each other, but for our own selves. We're a Tomboi. I'm Paige. I play the guitar in the band, and my pronouns are she, her, and they, which means that I identify as a non-binary person, but I've like lived a life as a woman, so I'm very comfortable, you know, being addressed either way, and I'll take it off to the other people.
I'm Summer. I use she, her pronouns, and I play drums in Tomboi. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I'm a graphic designer. I also make bread, and been fermenting a lot of things lately. That's a little intro for me.
What's up, y'all? I am Alex, pronouns he, him. I do all the beats, record all the jams, and I don't make jam or bread, but Summer has sent me a sourdough starter recipe that is on my list of things to do.
Oh,
in all
really?
Of our quarantine time.
Let me get that.
Yeah.
I want to sign up for that as well.
Tomboi sourdough starter. You can get that also in our links. Yeah, I think that's it. And I just record music in the meantime when I'm not tomboying.
So Tomboi started in 2014. We're going to give you a little backstory.
6 years? 6 years that we've been a band?
Yep.
It's been fun. We have known each other, like the little history of all three of us. We've known each other for years. We all are from Jacksonville, Florida, which is in Northeast Florida. And we collectively were playing in the music scene together for years. Alex was in multiple bands, one of them Wildlife Society, which is really fun. And me and Summer played in a band together. And we would just play shows with one another, and we were really comfortable with one another. And I'll let someone else finish the story because it kind of revolves around my birthday. So I feel weird we're talking about it.
So we threw a surprise birthday party for Paige. It was, I prepared some pop punk hits that Paige loves with a friend, Alex Doherty. And Alex DJ'd that night. Yeah, and then the next day, Alex and Paige were hanging out. And
we were brunching, as the queers often do.
We did brunch. And then Alex got invited. Like in the middle of brunch, Alex was like, I got invited to play South by Southwest with this like friend of mine who I played a show with, and like I don't know how I'm gonna get there. Like I'd love to go, but it seems like it's more stress than it's worth. And I had just bought a car and I was like, I'll drive. I'll do it. And Alex was like, you should play guitar probably too. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah, totally. Let's do this.
You're mostly the part where you assaulted me with your French fries because you were like, you should go.
Yeah. I mean, lovingly. Yeah. Like Alex,
got free
you
French
know how
fries.
it is. You're like, yeah, you get like an opportunity and you're like, I don't know, should I do it? And I was just like throwing French fries, like, you should do it. I want to do it too, but let's do it.
And then we paid our brunch check and then we walked and convinced Summer to join forces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Summer was like down the street.
And down.
And then 6 years later,
1 month later we were at South by, and 6 years later here we are.
Yeah, so
it was pretty crazy.
We all live in different cities now, so our process has changed, but we're still making music and keeping it going.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time communicating through, online channels and being able to like share music with one another digitally and collaborate in that way, which has been really awesome. It's like a totally new way of approaching creativity, but especially right now in the midst of, so many people sheltering in place, which is good. It's a great idea. And it's been hard, obviously, to collaborate musically, but not when you can reach out through the internet.
So we have some topics or some questions that we've prepared for ourselves that we're going to go through. We wanted to start off with pronouns and talk about the importance of respecting pronouns. We have a song called PGP.
Yeah. We have a song called PGP that was on our Spectrum album. That was a full-length album we put out in 2017, and we were working on that song probably around like 2016, because we put it out at the beginning of 2017. Mm-hmm. And in Jacksonville, Florida, where we're all from, and where at the time we were all living together in the same house, which is a lot different now, living in 3 different cities across the country. But in Jacksonville, we were fighting for a fully inclusive human rights ordinance in our city to be passed, which would include protections against discrimination for people's gender identities. And we essentially got that passed as a community together in Jacksonville. And we were also at the same time being invited to play in pretty public spaces in Jacksonville. Even playing in Hemming Plaza, which is actually a park that is directly in front of where the city council meets, and even for like youth events. And it was just like, we should write a song that kind of embodies like just talking about identity, because that's just something that wasn't really talked about here, or maybe at that time in culture, period. And it wasn't that long ago, and things really in the community change so fast depending on administration, and that's why you have to vote. But we started working on the song PGP, and we started playing a lot of events, and essentially we're playing events where there was definitely a crowd there that probably had no idea what PGPs were, maybe didn't even care. But they opened their mind up because they were out there dancing and like getting it to this song that was talking about personal gender pronouns and giving a moment to ask you, how do you identify, and respect the people around you and how they identify. And those things can change, and like you should take a moment to sit with those feelings within yourself, because they big feelings. Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Great idea. So for personal gender pronouns, so each of us, identifies in the ways that we identify, and we can advocate for ourselves. But one thing that we do want to bring up is allyship and people advocating for those who are actively experiencing discrimination, people, you know, if you're an ally to the LGBT community, it's really important that you, like respect, you know, your friend's pronouns, but also that you help stick up for them when they are in situations where they're misgendered or where they're experiencing discrimination, because that sometimes is the most important thing that you can do, because it's not up to these marginalized groups to be the sole advocates for themselves. It's great, but we need everyone on the same team. So there are some ways that you can help to advocate for your friends. I mean, obviously, correcting anyone, you know, if they're using the wrong pronouns and you know that your friend identifies as they, them, or, you know, she, her, he, him, just making sure that people respect that. You know, looking up ways to talk to people empathetically about changing their grammar and changing their English. Because for some people, you know, it's a matter of, you know, they don't understand why someone identifies as they, them. And so Webster's Dictionary, I think it was just this past year, named they, them as like the words of the year. So it's, the culture is changing around it. And it's just so important to be on that right side of history, regardless of if you know, are cisgendered or, you know, otherwise.
True that.
Oh, and don't be afraid to ask someone's pronouns. I think that's something that really makes me feel safe and like seen in a situation when I meet someone and they're immediately like, hi, what are your pronouns? Because that just totally takes away, you know, the anxiety for some people of having to have that conversation and, you know, feeling like, oh no, is this going to be another political argument that I'm going to have to get in for simply talking about my identity? It just takes away that stress immediately. You're like, hey, how do you identify and how can I best support you? And again, that's just coming from a place of empathy.
So why do we openly identify as a queer band?
I'd say for us, I mean, I just remember conversations we were having when our band started was just kind of like, people are going to ask us about our sexuality. Then they're definitely not going to ask us about anything gender related at the time. Like that just wasn't where journalism in our region was at. And still is like striving to be. But I think it was like, one, we didn't want to get branded as something that we weren't, and we didn't want people to think that we were ashamed of anything involving who we are, because we were all very out and proud individuals in our personal lives. And I can speak only for myself in this, was just saying that I'd always been in bands with like cisgendered, heteronormative, more on that spectrum of like being in bands with identities like that. And it was for the first time I got to be in a band and just be like, no, this is for queers by queers. And like, it's, you can listen to it if you're a part of any demographic, but there's no shame in the game. And for me too, growing up, again, only speaking for myself, like I just there wasn't a lot of content that was queer that wasn't presented in a way that wasn't like a joke or seemed serious, or was like content that was taken on like a serious artistic level. And only more so recently does it feel like that content is becoming more readily available for the LGBTQ community. And even like really for the trans community, just like finally having like access, or people making content finally, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's so important for the youth who are looking for, like Alex was saying, like growing up, there was not a lot of LGBT representation. And if it was always, you know, queer coding in Disney villains, or, you know, certain things where they would give the villain characters these like obviously, you know, perceived gay traits, to cast that as, you know, a societal, like, you know, not part of the norm, therefore evil. And similarly, you know, like LGBT characters were a joke most of the time. And so being in, you know, any type of musician or creative space where you have a platform and you have a voice, you're literally elevated on a stage, you have, to a certain extent, the responsibility to be a role model for younger LGBT kids who are like looking for that role model. And like, not everyone feels comfortable doing that, but I know it's amazing to see like heroes and like people that you look up to that are like you and are not ashamed of it. And that was not something that I ever saw growing up. So like, yeah, my guitar playing is probably not inherently queer, but the fact that I'm queer bleeds into every aspect of my life, you know, politically, whether I want it to or not. So it's so much better to claim that and be proud of it than it is to not acknowledge that.
I think like using like hashtag queer band or putting queer in our subtitle for like Facebook and Instagram made us easier to find too. So it's like trying to make our music more accessible, like when someone's searching for queer music or queer artists. So two great examples I want to mention were Tom Mag and She Shreds, like 6 years ago, or I think Tom has been around for like 10 years. They advocate in the same way for like female and gender nonconforming people. They put out publications that feature those folks and yeah. Do y'all have anything to add?
I mean, I think definitely we've used like we've openly identified as being a queer band because we wanted to find those communities in other places, and we wanted again to like steer the dialogue and just to like validate that like there was a need for that. I remember some of the first interview questions that people got, and they were like, we had to send them, like they sent us questions and then we would send them questions back of like what we had approved. And they basically were like, so what's it like being like a lesbian band? You know, and we were like, we don't identify as that. And we would send back like we would send back what we were comfortable answering and comfortable of identifying as. And it's like, maybe it's just where we're from, that there's this just like, you look at someone and you read them, and then like so much of what you see in them, you can say in a question, in a sentence, you know, of like how you're perceiving their entire identity, which might not be totally accurate for that person. And so like queer just seemed to embody all of the, I don't know, feelings, and not also putting any of us in any type of like specific identity on the queer spectrum, because it is a spectrum of being queer. And so for me, it gave me the capacity to be able to transition in the band a little easier, and still feel like I fit in that moniker somehow, because the queer community has just been my safe space my entire life, you know?
Yeah. We I guess we should, preface all this with the fact that we did all grow up in the South, and it was very much like a mechanism for our own safety while touring to openly express that we're queer, so that we could know it. Essentially, like if someone was going to be homophobic or was not going to book us for a show, it was so much better for our own safety to know that before we got to the city and potentially put ourselves at risk with people who, you know, wanted to hurt us, which has happened in a couple of different situations where we didn't know. And like, yeah, it kind of put us at risk there. So that's really important to be able to claim that and then find communities around the country, which brings us to another point, like how can, you know, trans individuals deal with being in a non-gender affirming environment? How can anyone within the LGBT spectrum deal with, you know, maybe being in a small town that doesn't have LGBT resource centers? So we have some information about that. I mean, I'll hand it off to y'all to discuss that, but we do have like a companion resource list that we're gonna like put in the comments of this video so that everyone can access it and see, even if you are in, you know, a small town that, you know, maybe you don't feel safe, maybe you don't feel like you have community. If you have access to the internet or even a phone, because we're going to provide, you know, helplines, you have community in that form. So yeah, I'll pass it off to y'all for that. Do you guys have any, like, you know, personal anecdotes?
I think as an ally, just looking out for each other, especially when we're on tour, just having each other's back. And like, if one of us is in an awkward situation, just be there for your friend and be there as a third party to step in if you need to. As a cis woman, I feel like some of us have more privilege than others. So, and that comes with safety. So protecting our trans friends is really important, and helping to educate people and sticking up for your friends.
True that, Summer. I can say, I know, like, we definitely, like, have all had to stick up for each other in different ways in different places and spaces throughout and the history of our band and all over the place. I know right now there's a lot of people that are somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum. Maybe they're young and they're stuck at home and like they can't be out yet or they can't be safe. And for me, that part of my life is so long ago now. That's, and like when we were leading up, like talking about this live stream, it was like having to kind of revisit what that felt like of not being in control of your space again, you know, and like what, for me, I remember getting through those feelings by learning to play guitar and learning to play music, and the harsh reality within those spaces of you not being safe and understanding something about yourself that other people around you maybe aren't going to accept it with open arms is that it's going to take a lot of coping on your end, and it is going to take like finding ways to survive that works best for you. And the beautiful thing about art is that it's not, you don't have to make art to be like in a band or to ever share it with anyone else. It's about having some way to pass the time and satiate whatever it is that you're going through and process it. And for me, I remember being in those moments and always just kind of like put down for expressing like a very masculine gender at an early age. And it forced me into kind of an introverted place in myself of just like learning to play music for hours on end, because it was just something I could escape into and do it. And it sucks that you're in those spaces, and it sucks that you have to learn resilience because the culture is that. But save money as much as you can and make an exit plan to find yourself in a safer space. It's not easy, but it is done. And there is community out there that wants to see you succeed and get past those places. And it's not easy, but again, there are people that want you around and see that your truth is beautiful and that your pain is real and that those moments are really hard. And depending on where you live, the resources can kind of fluctuate. But the beauty of the internet is there is one space that you can go to and kind of look for it, and find communities of the same kind of story from all over the place. I know Paige has helped kind of put together a resource list of things and places to reach out to and find information if you're kind of struggling right now while you're stuck at home around people that are family but don't feel like family, are family but don't make you feel safe, are family but don't accept you. Like you'll find your family. It is out there, and like they're just waiting to meet you and to love you.
Yeah, that's really well said. Some of the resources, oh, sorry. Hold on. I don't know why I just got kicked out of the thing. Sorry, can y'all see me still?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so some of the resources I just posted in the comments of this video, a document that's going to have multiple resources for LGBTQ plus individuals. For, LGBT youth, there is the Trevor Project, which has 24/7, 365 days a year lifeline. That's going to be 866-4U-TREVOR. That's 866-488-7386. They also have an online instant messaging option, or even a text-based support system. So that's for youth, anyone under 25, if you're experiencing crisis, especially right now. Everyone's really isolated in the midst of all this. And like Alex was saying, if you're sheltering in place with an abusive partner, or, you're in a toxic family situation, or, you're alone, there is a support system out there. And again, for youth, once school gets started, there is the Gay Straight Alliance Network, which is a national organization, the GSA network, that helps to create, equality-based groups in schools. So, look into that. There might be something available at your school. And then for allies, if you want to get involved, there's organizations like PFLAG, which is the parents, families, and friends of lesbians and gays. They do a lot of great advocacy. There's tons more on the document that's in the comments that y'all will be able to look into. But it goes without saying, if anyone is in crisis and they're watching this video, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is an incredible resource. Mental health, regardless of, gender, sexual orientation, is so important. And, if you're in crisis, please do call. And that number is 800-237-TALK. So that's 800-237-8255. And again, all these resources and many more, like legal resources, if you're interested in your rights, you're interested in some of these bills that are coming up, you can look into that through the ACLU, the Transgender Law Center. All that, again, is in the document. But yeah, we should definitely talk about how important it is to vote. I mean, regardless of, this situation is crazy. We're all stuck inside right now, but we have an election coming up in November. And so it's super, super important to get out there and vote. And that's where I'll hand it off to y'all again.
Yeah, rock the boat.
Back to the resources, I just wanted to mention for something immediate, just like finding a song or band that you connect with. Like if you're having a bad day, just like tune into something that makes you feel comfortable and find a voice that represents you, and also get to know your queer ancestors. History is a powerful resource. So knowing the stories of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, and understanding the struggle of our ancestors is great inspiration and empowerment for helping us get through our struggles. So if you don't have like queer fam in your direct bloodline, you definitely have queer fam, a queer family tree as a resource.
Very true.
I think I'm gonna sneeze. No, I think I'm good.
Look at the light.
No, that'll make me sneeze.
I always just make weird faces and plug my nose. Like,
does that work?
Sometimes I sneeze while doing that, so then it's like a really weird sneeze because I've like plugged my nose and I'm trying really hard not to sneeze. Especially now.
This is the dance part of the advocacy talk.
Yeah. My asthma riding around on my bicycle and I have to cough. I just feel like the worst human in the world.
Oh no. It's good though that you're getting out there and being active. Before we did this talk, we were just talking about all the things that we've been doing to keep our spirits up. I just walked around my neighborhood for like 30 minutes. That was nice.
But get on that bicycle. Riding is...
Yeah, we have been making music. So we do have a new song out that we will also include the link to in the comments of this video. It's called Off the Ground. We released it last Friday. So it's super, super new. And
we're also doing a giveaway. We're doing a giveaway.
We're doing a lot of stuff. Yeah, y'all want to talk about the giveaway?
Yeah. Right now it's on our Instagram. We'll probably put it on Facebook too, but we have a bandana, a shirt, our album and EP, some magnets. All you have to do is follow us, tag 2 friends, and write a few things that you're grateful for. And then we'll pick a winner at random next Saturday and announce it on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then you'll get your free swag.
Mm-hmm.
Get that swag. What else? Here, I'll add the link to Off the Ground. Off the Ground is actually going to be available as well for purchase on Bandcamp. Today, Bandcamp is waiving their fees and they're giving 100% of the donations to the artist. So you can purchase that on Bandcamp. You can purchase our other previous songs, and then any other artists that you liked. Today is a great day to support artists directly. And what else? Oh, it's even Off the Ground's on Void on Vinyl, which is a collaboration of Void Magazine, which is based in Northeast Florida, collecting a whole bunch of musicians from the Northeast Florida region and putting their songs on vinyl record, which is available through their website. And we'll add the link because I think a portion of the profits, I think $5 from each sale, goes to a musician release fund that was started by the Cultural Council in Jacksonville, Florida, which is really awesome. So I'll include that right now.
I'm excited to hear that on vinyl, honestly, after working on it for so long.
Yeah, the little pops and cracks. Yeah, so Alex did all the production for Off the Ground. It's amazing. Got me to sing a little bit.
Yeah, Paige, we got Paige singing now. Can you hear more of that sweet, sweet little angel baby voice?
Ooh.
It's all that all the time.
Yeah, that's me.
Maybe Summer will start singing. It's definitely more of a process recording now because we're not all in the same place. So it's like, I'll send you a file, or I'll wait till you come in town, and then we'll wait till the next person responds back to the file and or comes in town, and then we'll discuss if we like the file where it's at, and then we'll mash the potatoes just a little bit more before we add the gravy, you know what I'm saying? And then chicken dinner.
I'm pretty sure
vegetarian.
Vocals on Run Round remix. Some ooze.
Oh yeah.
Oh. I'm getting old. I forget things in my old man days.
I'm adding this information to the
Do you think they're going to play a music video, not for Off the Ground, which is our latest single, but they're going to play a music video for our last single off of our album Spectrum, which was Rainbow Warrior, which is also
great. I think very soon, if not right, very soon. Yeah, we provided the last big single that we did, Rainbow Warrior, off of the Spectrum album in 2017. We worked with director Keegan Anfuso to create a video that kind of highlighted the LGBT experience and combined it with, the idea of a queer family. And so we used a lot of circus performer metaphors because we're from Florida, and a lot of, the circus was in Florida, and like the freak show element, and how, you can come together being outside of the binary and you can find that family. So we'll include that video here shortly. It's a oneer, which means it was shot all in one go around. It's a technical, it was a fun day for us.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Is that you? God, I've been wondering what you sound
All right. Oh, yay. Thank you. Shout out to everyone, the whole cast and crew that helped us film that video. It was an amazing day.
Shout out to BB Deluxe. Shout out to Robert.
Yep.
Baddies.
Shout out to Keegan. Shout out to
Birdie.
There were so many people that were part of that video. You guys are awesome. Shout out to Birdie, Summer's amazing cat that was found in a Publix parking lot. For those uninitiated, Publix is a grocery store chain in the South, Florida specifically. They have good subs.
Who doesn't love a good sub? I believe this is the question part of this segment. If y'all have any questions, please let us know. We'll be more than happy.
Yeah.
If they're not rude, we'll answer them 100%.
I mean, if they're rude, I'll answer them. It's fine. Maybe you had a hard day. It's okay. Don't take it out on us, but like, I get it.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
One comment, great video. Thank you. Shout out to Keegan and Fuso.
Great video.
In Florida. Wonderful video. Keegan is doing a documentary currently about the identity and experience of, what it's like to be a masculine female and, her own personal choices in identity. That video, that documentary is called The Gray Area. And I think it's in like post-production right now. We'll definitely share that when it's available because it's a really good friend of ours and they're really talented artists. No, thank you. Just like reading comments. This is amazing. So
I can't see anything.
Yay. Just reading stuff.
I'd say, I think the trans perspective is so vast and so different for all like trans bodies and non-binary folks. So going into that as an ally, that is just something to keep in mind, is that not every trans person is having the same experience as maybe the last trans person that you once met or, whatever. And so that being said, not every trans person wants to answer questions about being trans or might not even want to be acknowledged as being trans in a public situation. They might be trying to be stealth. And so in that, I think being an ally, all you can really do is do your best to be gentle around if you are really concerned about what someone's gender is and how that plays, and to being able to have a conversation with them. I think your best bet usually is to go with just a polite, not a big deal, doesn't have to be over the top. Just be like, hey, my name's, so-and-so, my pronouns or whatever. What's your name? What are your pronouns? And be nonchalant about it, because for my singular experience in the world, and I work at a bar and a music venue, people put me in a position constantly where it's like, I feel like I'm being pat on the back for like waking up and living my trans life. And I'm not being trans for other people. And I'm not like looking for their validation essentially either when I'm going out and just like living my truth. I'm just like at work, doing my thing, trying to make money, trying to have a good day, which I would assume a lot of people are in the same boat in that. And when you go out of your way to like make a big deal about someone's transness or non-binariness, you kind of isolate them in the situation. And that's just my singular one perspective on the subject as one trans person in this vast world. But I think the only advice I would offer to people that are looking for ways to be an ally is like, one, ask yourself, is this a question I could Google first? If I really am curious, am I really curious, or do I just want to kind of like make this person a novelty right now and make them answer a question that I've never actually researched before, and until looking at them, never even thought about it? Two, if it's not a Googleable question, is it something that you might offend somebody with? Chances are, if you're thinking that it might be offensive, you could probably Google that and see if that's an offensive question to trans people. And three, again, if someone's trans, they don't have to answer any questions for you. They don't have to, like, because you're curious about someone's transness, it's not their job. It's not their job, you know, like it's not their job. Like you're just like, being trans, you are kind of radical. So it's a sensitive subject, to say the least. So approach it with kindness and being gentle towards people, and don't make a big, like, you don't have to make a giant deal out of it, you know?
Yeah. Also, vote. I mean, on a personal level, it's super important to respect people's pronouns and to stick up for your friends, to use what power, what privilege you have to make sure that people are not being taken advantage of. But then on the larger level, you have to vote. You have to be knowledgeable about the types of laws that are being instituted. And if they are harming communities that you may not be a part of, so that fight might not be front in your mind, but it's so important to pay attention to what's going on and be able to advocate for those that may not have as large of a voice. We live in a really wonderful time where, you know, queer people and trans people are able to speak their truth. You know, we have more media representation, but all of that was because people stood up and voted and made their voices heard and rioted and did what they needed to do to politically assert that, you know, equality and especially equity is most important. So get out there, y'all.
So that being said, and paying tribute to our queer roots and ancestors, there's a lot of elderly people that are not in the best situations because they're elderly right now. So if you have elderly folk in your life, or you know, elderly queer folk, check in on them, you know, just give them a phone call, shoot them a letter, whichever ways they feel comfortable staying in contact, because the people that have done the work are the people that are kind of being sectioned off during this crisis. And I can speak for Florida that we're not notoriously known for exactly having like the best healthcare for trans or older LGBTQ folk, even though we're known for having like a high retired population. So just check in with the people that have done the work so that you're out there being able to be you, the people that have gone to battle for our communities for so long that maybe no one's given them a visit. Maybe they just want someone to bring in some sourdough starter, you know. Just check in with the people, y'all.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, for sure.
Do we have any other questions or concerns?
I'm looking at the stuff.
What about some name change sources? I don't know if I understand that question fully, like resources to be able to change your name legally. That is going to depend on what state you live in. And it can even depend on what county you live in. Florida.
That's a wonderful question. Yeah.
Florida, it can be expensive. I would say if you're someone who's looking to get laminated, in say the state of Florida, because that's where my experience is at in trying to do it. You can get some pushback, but there are LGBTQ resource centers around Florida that say if you're in like a more rural area in Florida that's not a major city, in Florida, then those resource centers that you could find in, say, like Orlando or Jacksonville or Tampa or Miami, or Tallahassee, that you would be able to, or even Gainesville, you could travel and, or even just send them, give them a call or an email, and they would be able to connect you with some maybe law offices in your area, or just some resources about how to go about it. In my experience, it's going to require some money. And the older you are, it can be a little harder to get access to the LGBTQ resource centers. And it can be really overwhelming when you're Googling things like how to change my name. You have to make sure to include in that search which state that you're living in, even down to the county. I don't necessarily recommend going and trying to talk to anyone in the city because it can be kind of uncomfortable. So I would suggest emails as much as possible. And again, even if you're aged out of it, like for me, the LGBTQ resource center in Jacksonville, Florida is Jasmine, which is a really great resource, but you are aged out after like 22 or 23. And that's just where they're at. We're being able to help and fund people. So if you're older, I know that I can contact people that work there and they'll still help me. They're not going to be like, nah, dog, you 33. We ain't trying to help you. They'll still offer the information that they have, and they're still like trying to do the work for the community. So if you're trying to get laminated, reach out to find a local LGBTQ resource center. If there's not one close to you, look for a major city near you, give them a call, ask them what they would suggest that you do for the next step, because it's going to depend on where you live.
I just included in the comment thread a link to the National Center for Transgender Equality. This is their ID Document Center, which allows you to enter your information, enter which state you're in, and it'll give you information on what your state requires to change your name. So if that means driver's license, birth certificate, you're able to search that database. That is in the comments. And then as well, we're based in the U.S. We're talking about how this is affecting us, but there are international resources as well. You can look on the document, the HMF, LGBTQ plus resources. The Trevor Project, again, has an international hotline, as well as there's a couple other international resources. I don't have the document in front of me, but
I'll jump in and just say, I'll say too, in regards to getting your name changed, it's important to, if we're talking about that, getting your name change is not the same as getting your sex changed on your driver's license or on your birth certificate. And if you're non-binary, whether you're able to even put that as an option on your driver's license or on your birth certificate, definitely depends where you live, if that's even an option to do. I know getting your sex changed on any type of legal identification in the state of Florida is hard if you don't have someone who might know how to work around some legal stuff. The forms are extensive, and for me, in my experience being trans, navigating any type of paperwork where you're forced to fill out a dead name and a gender that has been placed on you really without your consent at all in the first place, it can be a little overwhelming, especially right now if you're like having to fill out for like unemployment and the stimulus and the this and the that. And it's just like constant reminders of like an identity that's forced on you that's not yours, that you have to backtrack and essentially pay money to be able to have your proper sex on your ID and have your name properly on your ID. And that also being said, why it's important to vote right now, there is cases coming up in the Supreme Court about essentially what sex even means, and if you can even change someone's sex. And this was something that was turned over during the Obama administration. And that's why I think we've seen a lot of progress in the trans and non-binary community, because there's been people voted and we got some leeway essentially in equal rights in terms of healthcare access and just the ability to be seen, to sign up for the military, which was taken away. In this administration right now, leaves a lot to be desired, specifically for the trans community. I would, from my perspective, and even if you're someone who's low income and you don't have a lot of options right now, to say, like, what are you going to do if you like can't find a job? If you don't have access to family, a lot of people join the military. And if you're trans, it's just like off the table. Like, you're not even allowed to serve because your body is just not good enough for the US government. So how do you pay your bills if, you know, you don't get out there and vote and make sure that these people that are controlling these ideas about what gender is and what equity people should be allowed based on that assumption, we need to get those people out of power, because it's definitely affecting an entire community ability to have what they're promised as being American citizens. And I'm speaking from an American perspective of that you should have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the trans community, specifically in the non-binary community, are just not given that same access. Period.
Thanks,
so
Alex.
Vote. Unless you're going to vote for Trump, then you can stay home.
Let me see if there's any more comments from anyone. I don't see any.
You guys have any more questions for us?
No, I mean, if there's any other questions that come up on this thread, we can, I guess, just answer in the comment section. We'll be here.
Yeah, thank you, Harvey Milk Festival, for having us, and, you know, for continuing to keep us all together during this time. I mean, this has been an amazing resource for us to have that connectivity with an amazing organization that, you know, continues to spread the good word.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love you, Harvey Milk Fest. Please keep it on, and thank you for putting together these virtual series so that we can all stay together and have queer content in these crazy times. And I hope that each and every one of y'all have chimed in, that you all are staying safe, staying sane, and being kind to yourself and to each other.
Bye.